As time goes on, various mediums in their own unique ways try to push boundaries into new territories. This game in particular is one I'm not sold on, yet here I am about to make a whole video dedicated to its themes, presented ideas, and imagery. So maybe it accomplished its mission perfectly. When people describe high art material as unapproachable, strange, and in many ways incomprehensible, this type of work could be put in that exact category. It has a musical score and art direction that soars far above its lackluster narrative and gameplay. For imagery and philosophical ideas that have such high ceilings for discussion, it ultimately becomes simple yet difficult to dissect. Be exploring the ideas, imagery, and music of a universe set into entropy with Genesis Noir. Let's start with what this game did the best, its music and visuals. There were a couple chapters in particular that really blew me away. In the background right now is my favorite chapter, Improvisations. The comic book-like panels, the variety and movement with almost every angle being represented, the on-point jazz music, the deathly ending. This was Genesis Noir at its best. A major story was told in this short chapter and it left the strongest impression. The death of the cello player was also unexpected, which was a nice final touch. The cityscape really does fit this game's art direction. It's a shame that most of this game takes place in spacious galactic environments. At many times it still looks great, but the small amounts in the city really did more for me than the more experimental space noir styles did. Noir styles for me look better the more there is in the environment. The black contrasts really ascend the look. The space locations though were more open and lacked the density that could have helped. The prologue was also a great chapter. In terms of storytelling, it was a bit stronger since it had the task of setting up the game's premise for the rest to be more open-ended and high concept. Before getting to the story overall, I will say it's at its best when it's dealing with smaller ideas. The cello player, the Ronin, the humans fleeing from Earth because they destroyed Mars, and now flee to cause destruction elsewhere. But overall, it doesn't grab me as well. The music, on the other hand, was crazy good. Setting a space opera noir story with jazz as the background feels so fitting. The arrangements, the various amounts of tracks, and how the music itself even plays into the storytelling was great. I wish more of the story was about music just after hearing the soundtrack, but either way, it definitely elevates the material. The story as a whole isn't too hard to explain, though it can take a bit to figure it out. As an allegory to the Big Bang and the cycle of creation to destruction of the universes, the main character, No Man, tries to save the one he loves by traveling through time. The person he loves is Miss Mass, representing the material universe, the thing that eventuality would destroy. The one who is about to kill her is Golden Boy, representing energy or the force that will eventually bring about the destruction of material existence. No Man represents time, as shown with his ability to travel through time. And as a futile attempt to change fate, he tries to change the future. But as the story shows, trying to prevent the darkness of the future is like trying to stop the eventual destruction of existence. One of the only voice lines in the game, outside of one of the musical sequences, is about this concept. You can't save everyone. To try and save Miss Mass, No Man decides the only way to stop Golden Boy and his weapon of seemingly pure energy, he has to create a black hole. Don't get me wrong, this game does have its moments, with its storytelling where it shines, but for the majority of this game, including a large chunk of the initial premise, it doesn't work that well. The game starts off in absurdity, with our main character's goal coming off as confusing and nonsensical. For someone with the ability to travel through time, he somehow divines he must destroy everything instead of actually using his time powers to save Miss Mass, trying to prevent the attack from hitting her, warning her ahead of time. But the game starts here, regardless of whether it was intentional. The main character's goals at the start don't make much sense. What makes this more difficult is since this game has no dialogue, I honestly didn't know what No Man's plan was for a large chunk of the game. I only know what his plan was from the start retroactively and after reading up on it. Overall, it seems the story was jammed into this game and made to fit whichever way it needed to. I also didn't know that No Man's relationship with Miss Mass was an affair either. The game doesn't do enough to supplement the lack of dialogue with meaningful storytelling visuals. The game is all about the flair, metaphors, and philosophy, but the story they layered on top of doesn't hold up to the weight. I love the ideas on display. The bits of philosophy before each chapter were very well written. The poems dispersed throughout as well, but more focus in this area would have definitely been appreciated. Now, the one aspect of this game that doesn't work too well was the gameplay. I'm a fan of visual novels and other games that don't focus mainly on gameplay, but it doesn't work as well here. In other games like Night in the Woods, Life is Strange, Firewatch, and other games, work because no sections take too long, and there are constantly things to engage you. With puzzles and moving around being the main gameplay drive just doesn't work too well for me. Even with the ups and downs of this game, it does succeed with introducing its ideas. Entropy, the inevitable force of the future, accepting the possibilities of what can be. All of these ideas are shown beautifully through their visuals. The small touch of adding poems to the beginning of the various chapters was smart, because it helps the player connect those ideas with the themes of the level. While many parts of this game didn't work for me, I'm not disappointed I went through it. It has a fantastic art direction, a musical score that is easily going on my playlists. If I'm looking for anything out of any game I play, it's to at least introduce interesting ideas and to get me to think. What did you all think of Genesis Noir? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, check out the playlist for more videos like this one. I hope to see you next time.